157 years ago, there were 15,000 Confederate soldiers lined up from here, a half-mile north and a half-mile south.
So Lee was well loved. He had been a crazy general. He had beaten the Union Army every opportunity on the eastern side.
Up to this battle.
To this battle, yes. Coming into Gettysburg after one day where they did well, the second day Longstreet's corps attacked Little Round Top, the wheat field, the peach orchard, and neither side really won. Both sides got really bloodied, and at the end of the day the Confederates got some ground but not enough to make a difference, and Lee was wanting to have a difference. He believed if they could win here at Gettysburg, the war would be over. Europe would take him, the North would sue for peace.
Okay. This is a reproduction.
It'll look the same, but it'll happen.
Still in good shape.
We're obviously not shooting a single shot.
Oh, where's the rifle?
Yeah, you're right.
In my car.
Same.
Union and Confederate had Enfields.
I see.
The big problem, and you can agree or disagree, but we were trying to keep a balance between the government of the North and the South in the House and the Senate. So they were trying to figure out, they were always compromising to make everybody happy, because our founding fathers knew this whole slavery thing was going to be a problem one day, but they were trying to make it work.
Folks, as you can see, there's a lot of opinions here. And I don't want to alienate any of my viewers, but I just wanted to share some different views from you, from just the standard view that you hear every day of that it's all about this or it's all about that. So I wanted you to hear some of the Confederate points of view here.
Is Pickett's charge, it's such a great historical battle. It's full of glory, full of honor, full of men doing their duty, courage, probably some lunacy in this all. But it didn't even last an hour from over to back. So we always talk about Pickett's charge, and hardly anybody talks about Pickett's retreat. They actually, for the first 100 yards, they went backwards, so they wouldn't get shot in the back. The whole time period, we were worried about honor. So if a soldier was turning around to retreat, first was a terrible thing, but you would never show them your back. Because if you got shot in the back and it got reported to your hometown that you were shot in the back retreating, then your family would be disgraced. Lee lost about 7,000 or so men.
Which is 50% of his...
Pretty much 50% of the attacking force. And so fortunately, it had been a long 3 days for the Union as well as it had been for the South. General Meade, General Hancock, they're like, thank you, Jesus, we lived. And the wagon train of the wounded and injured that were going south, 17 miles long.
Now I understand that Lee was surprised that the Union didn't come after him.
He expected that they would, yeah. No, Lee had his... Lee was one of those guys that once he made up his mind was made. And he would give you the courtesy of a listen. But he had made his mind up, we're going to do it here. If the enemy's here, he said on the 2nd, he told Longstreet, if the enemy's here in the morning, we're attacking him. And Longstreet tried to explain, General, if the enemy's there, they want you to attack him. Good. To this point, nobody's really fired muskets. The Confederates haven't shot. Union's mostly just shooting guns. But as soon as we get to the road, they start firing canister. And the rebels, as soon as they start shooting canister at them, those are those cans of ball bearings, like 50 ball bearings. Their thought is, holy crap, canister, because they knew canister, it would go through you and 2 guys behind you. These things are small and they're loaded, and it's like a shotgun. You have a line of 30 guys, the canister might take 10 and completely knock them down. So something to keep in mind, we're in a day, it's clear, it's breezy, it's not 87 degrees, it's not 100% humidity, so this isn't so miserable walking. But 150 guns over here, shot probably 50 loads each. They had 50 some guns on top of the hill shooting, and there was no wind. So black powder leaves smoke. So we've finally gotten almost across the field as Confederate soldiers. We reached Emmitsburg Road, which is heavily fenced, as you can see. Now this fence isn't easy to knock down. The ones that we saw earlier, they're not screwed together. They knock down pretty easily. It's all gravity holds them together. So they get here and they have to disassemble these boards, taking them apart and down, taking them apart and down. So all of a sudden, they've become an incredible target.
How close is the Union line here?
150 yards.
And they're shooting rifles at this.
At this point, the Union line's starting to shoot. Yeah, they're ordered to shoot, and the order would be aim low, shoot.
The smoke from the black powder just hung here, but the Confederates, all of a sudden, they saw a red mist in the air above the smoke from the canisters, having their effect on the Confederate soldiers, that the blood was just become a mist that just went up in the air.
Yeah. So now the thing, these soldiers, they expected to die. They would sew their names. They would sew their names into the back of their jackets, because one fear of the soldiers, they didn't want to not be known. They didn't want to be unknown. You know, they might have something in their jacket. They might have a Bible or a letter. But you know, your head's no longer in your body, because people recognize Steve by who Steve's head is, not by his legs. So they would sew it in, expecting, we're going to battle, this could be my last breath. And this was a terrible place. If you want to talk about a killing field, right here it is. You see that spire here? And you see the guy in the statue down there? So General Stannard, he's a regimental general of a couple of Vermont brigades. He's got 2,500 troops. He sees these two regiments getting lost, so he marches his boys out just straight out into this field, out to where that marker is. He marches them straight out in the field, and they start shooting to the left, and they start shooting to the right.
In the smoke.
Well, they're shooting into the lines of the Confederates. And the Confederates are still in line. They call that enfilading. You're shooting up the line. As you can see, an Ohio group under General Hayes marches out. There's 125 of them. They march out and do the same thing as Stannard does. So, courage, but at the same time, these guys took advantage of the opportunity to wreck hell into the side of the Confederates. So, and the Union line is the famous fishhook. So the Union had like a mile and a half to protect. The Confederate line was 5 miles. Union had more troops.
The Union never attacked the Confederate.
No, not on the second or third day. They did attack on the first day. So we get to here, and this last 75 yards, 50 yards is uphill. And at this point, they would no longer be coming in rank and file. They'd been charging, they'd been running, they'd have the guns out, they'd have the bayonets. The first Confederates to get here would have been under Armistead, would have been under Pickett, would have been one of Armistead's brigade. And his brigade, they're all Virginians. Then coming up the other way, the 28th North Carolina, they actually penetrated this field to about 10 feet short of that, where you see the guns in the wall up there. There's a monument to them. Lee was looking to take Harrisburg. That was his jewel, because Harrisburg had all the railroads. And from Harrisburg, he could have went to Philly, New York, Baltimore.
Now folks, we're crossing the Union line right here. This is it. That's where the Confederates were coming across.
Yeah.
Right here was the Union line.
So here's where the 2,000 blue soldiers were. We have guns. There were 50 guns or so lined up on the hill here. And then we also had troops going down that way. And then we had another division under Hayes of Ohioans down at that end. And looking back, you can see that's a pretty good hill we just came up.
Yeah.
You know, in 98 or 88 degrees, 87 degrees, high humidity, being shot at, smoke, you can't always breathe. It was a lot asked of any single man. So this is just a monument pointing out how far they got.
It's so significant because it's the high watermark of this incredibly
disgusting 3 days
battle. All the lies. This is the epitome of what it came to. This is
as close as it got. And Lee would say it was close. Now the Union would say it wasn't. help.
Well, folks, that's our Gettysburg story for today. Awesome story. Bob, thank you for your insight.
My pleasure.
It's just, this history is just, it's right here, it's right in your face. A lot of people died right here. So I just want to give you a little insight. The last video I did, I didn't talk about the equipment too much or what I'm shooting at. So I'm shooting with a Nikon 810, 36 million megapixel camera. And so most of it is shot at an f8 at, how many, see? Well, we got it at ISO 800. Because I'm hand holding it, I put a fast shutter speed in there, so eliminate any possible blur because I'm not shooting with a tripod. So ISO 800, and it looks like I'm almost at 800th of a second on a overcast day with lots of light. So that's what I got here. So, and then the video I'm shooting with the GoPro Hero Black 7. So it seems to work for me. And I got an extended mic on, a Rode mic, the Mini. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime. So thank you. We'll see you on the next video.